people that said that they were going to join. So
yeah, because I saw that there were some questions posted there.
yeah,
so I want to make sure that we'll definitely cover those. And
they're probably just getting their coffees, maybe.
Well,
I guess it depends on what time of day it is. Like I'm in Western Australia, so it's 8 o'clock in the morning here. So whereabouts are you located?
I'm in California, so it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon here.
California.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So tell me a little bit about your business, because you're so brand new to the group. I don't know anything about you. And meanwhile, we'll give a chance to the other people as well. Ooh.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we'll definitely the YouTube started playing there for me.
So I have a what we call an outsourcing business, and we're CFOs, so we're chief financial officers, and we typically work with businesses that employ usually around 20 to 300 people. So they have some scale where they need that kind of support, but they don't have the capacity or the resources to employ a full-time CFO.
Mm-hmm.
So we focus at 3 different levels. So we help them with strategy, we help them with the management aspect of their finances, and then we also have resources in the Philippines. So if they want bookkeeping and data entry, then we can assist with that as well.
Fantastic.
So that's pretty much us in a nutshell, yeah.
And have you had any PR? I work in PR. I help experts, coaches, consultants, speakers, authors, marketers with their online publicity to get them on the right media outlets online. For example, podcast interviews, telesummits, JV webinars, places where they really get to be connected to the right target audience for an extended period of time, 30 to 60 minutes, in some cases 90 minutes. And that way they can do the educational marketing that they would normally do, but in the format that is very conducive to establishing a relationship with the target market.
Right. Okay. Sounds exciting. I do. So go on.
Did you have any publicity to your business?
We don't at the moment, and we engaged some marketing consultants last year to get our messaging right, and we created some messages where they think that it would get some publicity. So I'm really interested in today's session because I think there's opportunities for us to do that.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, I think what I'm going to do here is, because I saw that there were quite a few questions that came in, and it looks like most people will be either observing or watching the recording, is I'm going to go through a presentation so that we can cover the basics and then answer any questions from you and also people that might join in the meantime, and also pull the questions from the Facebook group.
Cool.
Right, so let me just share my screen. Unless you have something that you're dying to know right now, I want to know that.
No, that's fine. I'm all ears as a newbie in the group. I'm just going to sit and listen. And yeah, this was at short notice, this appointment for me as well. So unfortunately, I've got to go by about 8:45 to get to a 9 o'clock appointment.
Okay.
I'll be looking out for the recording as well.
Okay, very good. All right, let's share this. Can you see my screen okay?
It's coming up. There we go.
Can you see this, the presentation?
Yes, I can now, yeah.
All right, so welcome everyone. I know that some of you will be watching this in the replay. This is a short presentation on how to get more publicity online so that really you're in front of the right target audience, and use media in a way that also will help you get more leads and sales. And if we have enough people and enough time at the end, we'll do an exercise together. If not, then I'll show you where to get it so that you can fill out a fun quiz and see what you can do to make publicity work for you. So what we'll cover today is intro into what PR is and what it can do for your business, traditional media versus online PR, and what you should focus on depending on where you're at with your business right now and what your goals are, and how to pitch yourself to get media placements and what shows to target. And then also we'll talk about, we'll do an exercise again if we have time to help you figure out what's right for you. If we don't have time for it, don't worry, because I'll give you exactly where to get it. So just a very little bit, most of you know me already from the group, but not all of you know exactly why I'm so passionate about online media, and this will actually shed some light on it, I think. So I really got started in marketing about 15 years ago when I was in my very, very young, and it's something that I really liked and enjoyed doing. It was mostly through the family of my ex-husband, and it was business development marketing through industries like hotels, restaurants, trading, shipping, real estate investments. There was a lot of opportunity for me to grow and see a very vast variety of businesses, but that was very entrepreneurial still because it was all owned by one family. And in 2007, I decided to come over to Los Angeles. I lived before in 6 other countries in Europe, in Hungary, Malta, Romania, Belgium, Holland. And so I moved over to LA because I always wanted to do acting. Ever since I was a little kid, I thought that that's what I wanted to do. So I went to a conservatory for a couple of years. I finished, got my degree there, and did a few movies, independent movies that probably nobody's ever heard of or seen. But that was something really fun. And in order to be able to support myself, I had to go back actually to day trading, which is something that had to do with my past as well, with the understanding investments, because LA is 3 hours behind New York. So I would get up really early in the morning, around 5 o'clock, 5:30, read the news, do some analysis work, and start day trading so that I could support myself and I didn't have to be a waiter, and then be available during the day for auditions and for filming. And then I got back to marketing quite suddenly again when the market crashed, and it hit me quite heavily. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And I thought, well, let me go back to my roots of actually that is where I started with marketing and help people. So I started coaching. And in 2013, with my friend Madeline Miller, we launched a show called Born to Influence, the Marketing Show. And it's a podcast that you can get on iTunes for free. We interview very, very successful entrepreneurs, people who have 7-8-figure businesses in many cases, or who have written New York Times bestselling books. And we find out about their marketing strategies and how they are using online PR to leverage their publicity to get more leads and sales. And so every single time when I would have somebody like a Gary Vaynerchuk or whoever on the line, and I would ask after we stopped the recording, after the interview, that how would you like to become, how would you like to be on other shows as well? Because I would always notice that, well, they have something that they want to promote, either a book coming out or a new service or a new product, and they want to talk about that. And so I would ask them, would you like to be in other shows as well? And they would always say yes. So at some point it dawned on me that this is actually a business, and Ben helped me tremendously with setting it up, figuring it all out. So we started really officially charging for it, last October, and this is what I've been doing since. So really, I'm looking at the PR process and the publicity process through the eyes of a marketer, but also through what is giving you the most mileage and the most amount of leverage for the time and energy that you spend on your publicity. So for example, one of my clients, Ryan Levesque, became the #1 best-selling author on the LA Times list, and also in Amazon in all books. So not just one little category, but in all books. In a very big part because of the publicity that we've been able to gather for him. So it's really something that goes hand in hand, both publicity and marketing. You can't think of one without the other. And especially for people like what we are learning here in the Mastermind, is that when you're really into direct response, it's very easy to be very granular with, not easy, but it's straightforward to be granular with your tracking, and you want to know your click-through rates and the percentages and everything. And so you know exactly where the money is coming from and what is generating the most leads. With publicity, it's not as straightforward, but there is a lot of ways that you can combine the two so that it makes it trackable for you, and you're getting the results in a much, much bigger and exponential way than if you only had direct response marketing. So let's look at a couple of things that PR can do for your business. Well, first of all, it's one of the obvious things is it can establish your credibility. So for example, if you were to go on TV or you're interviewed in a big magazine or quoted somewhere, you can use those logos on the As Seen In section on your website. And it helps somebody who is coming there for the first time. They're like, oh my gosh, this person really looks like a legitimate expert. It looks like a real business because they've been featured on all these big outlets. And in some cases, even if it's a small outlet, or if it's something like a show, maybe a podcast like Entrepreneur on Fire, which many of you have, I know, listened to. It's one of the biggest top business shows on iTunes. And if you put that logo there for the audience that is familiar with that show, that is actually in some cases a bigger and more credible seal of approval than if you had, say, CNN, because a lot of people these days are using the big traditional media logos in a very exaggerated way, like they've been mentioned on a website, or they had a little quote or an advertisement in it, and they kind of put it on. And there is so many affiliate stations, there are so many websites and news releases that are linked to that you can't really track whether or not that really happened. Whereas if you're getting on a podcast that has a large following, you simply just go to the website or to the iTunes page of that show, and you can see whether or not that appearance really happened. So for establishing credibility, both traditional media and online media work really well. Second thing that it can do for you and for your business is to build your platform. So obviously, the more people listen to your interviews and they read the articles where you've been mentioned and so on, the more bigger following you will gather. And so you're actually building your list this way and your audience as well. It will obviously help you generate leads and sales if you combine it with your marketing. And this is something that you can absolutely do if you have an existing converting funnel. You just simply plug in your PR into it, and we'll talk about how to do that. And then also it can connect you with influencers. So in many cases, you're looking for having JV partners or having somebody that can help you get in the door with someone else. When you are being interviewed on other shows, it will open the door for you to actually connect with really, really high-level people. And the rule of thumb with media is media begets media. So that means the more media you get, the more media you get. So once you start being consistent about it, and maybe you're interviewed 1 or 2, 3, 4 times a month, then other people will notice it because it's being shared online, you're emailing it out and so on. And so you will actually start getting requests, and you will start getting bigger and bigger appearances, because that's just the way it works. It starts snowballing. So let's talk about traditional media versus online media. Obviously, with traditional media, you know all those logos, CBS, NBC, CNN, the New York Times, there's plenty of outlets. What you need to know about them is that they're a lot more competitive when you're looking to get on those outlets, and in many cases it takes a longer lead time than if we're talking about online media. So what you've got to look at is, what are your goals with your online media tour? Let's just say that you're launching a book or a new service, or you want to establish yourself as an expert. If you're going after the big media outlets, that will absolutely help you with your credibility and with your branding overall. However, you have to keep in mind that because they are addressing mass market audiences, your message has to be very, very brief. So for example, if you were to go on TV, it may be 30 seconds up to 3, 4 minutes, 7 minutes absolutely at the maximum. If you're a really, really famous expert to comment on something, typically it has to be a very, very brief message, and it has to be also dumbed down, because they are serving a very big mass market audience. You can't go into detail as you would, like, for example, on a podcast interview or in a webinar that you're doing. So although it helps you with your credibility, it will not help you with creating that kind of a relationship that you would have when you get the space and the time to do your regular education-based marketing. And then the other thing, with the other big difference between traditional and online media, is that with traditional media, absolutely you cannot pitch. They will mention your website for you, and they'll say, if you would like to find more, then go here, something like that. Now, with online media, you can. And in many cases, it's a free pitch, meaning that you give away a free downloadable cheat sheet or a PDF or a video series or a chapter of your book, or in some cases, a physical book, like my client Ryan Levesque did. Every interview that we did for him, he gives away 50 copies of his book, physical copies, just by shipping. So all those things are a possibility for you. And in other type of online media outlets, like, for example, webinars, telesummits, and so on, you can make actually a paid offer to that audience as well. And I know that it's counterintuitive. You're not necessarily thinking of those outlets as media when you first think of PR, but really what it comes down to is being in front of the right target audience, and this is actually what that is. So with the traditional media, they won't let you pitch. With the online media, obviously you have to clear with the host or with the journalist first, but most cases you can at least make a free offer, if not a paid offer. Now, think about who is your target audience. So make sure that, for example, if you're going after a weight loss product, then obviously you want to be in a fitness magazine, or if you have a weight loss product, you want to be in a fitness magazines and in lifestyle magazines, things like that. Find a new angle for what you are looking to pitch when you're going onto TV, and if it's something of a niche offer that is not as mainstream, then there is literally hundreds and hundreds of online outlets that can help you get into a much more targeted audience and speak to people that are really curious about your methodology and the type of offer that you have. And then look at also where your relationships are. So this is not an either or between traditional versus online media. Just look at what makes sense for you. So if your primary goal is not so much leads and sales, but really just establishing big time credibility, absolutely go after traditional media. But even with that, I would say do a mix of both. Just like when you're applying for college, you want to have your Ivy League schools and your Harvards and whatnot. And then also you want to have a bunch of smaller schools that you're pretty much guaranteed to get into, because that way you get that consistency. And for somebody who is following you online in social media, or they're on your email list, if they're seeing consistently week after week, month after month, that you're being interviewed here, then featured there, then quoted there, it really makes a huge impression on them. And it's so much easier for them to make the buying decision when they're on the fence, if they're keeping seeing that you have that credibility and leveraging the relationship that somebody else has with their audience, because they're trusting you as a legitimate expert. Now, if you have the relationships, for example, with a TV producer or a journalist or a podcast host, absolutely go with that, because you can just ask that, hey, how would you like to cover this type of a story? Find obviously the right hook, and we'll talk about that. But just start with the lowest hanging fruit. So if you don't have a publicist, or if you're looking to do this really on your own and pitch yourself, then start with the ones that you have the lowest hanging fruit around, so where you already know somebody, or where you have a mutual friend and can get an introduction. And if you don't have anything, don't worry, because I'll show you a couple of ways of how to cold pitch yourself in a way that also works. And then also think about, are you a recognized expert in the mainstream sense? So for example, if you're a real household name, or if you have a client that is a real household name, like for example Tony Robbins, it's not that big of a pitch and a big difficulty to get him on TV or to get him into a magazine to do a feature story, not just about his methodology, but actually about him as an expert. Now, that is very, very unlikely to happen in a magazine or a newspaper unless you're already famous. So if you want to have something like a full page write-up about you only, a blog is much more likely to do that, or a Huffington Post article, something like that. But even there, they would be looking at how you can serve their audience versus writing about you, unless you're a really, really big name. So what you want to do for big media outlets, if you want to get into those, is look at what would serve their audience, and then do, for example, a roundup story. Like, these are the top 5 apps that are doing X for productivity, let's say, and then you can put yours included in that 5 as the number 1, or these are the top 3 things that entrepreneurs are making the biggest mistakes around whatever that your expertise is, and you'll pitch that story in a way that had not been covered before, but you know that they're interested in a general topic, and then make sure that you're being included as part of a larger conversation, rather than trying to position yourself as an expert in major media. Now, with online media, it's completely different, because they're smaller outlets, they have much more creative control over what they do, and they want to have the relationships with the experts themselves in many cases, particularly podcast hosts. So there, it's a different thing. You can really show your expertise, why what you do is absolutely has a success track record, and then suggest a couple of bullet points of why they should interview you. So this brings us to the next point of how to pitch yourself to the media. And first of all, you want to be really, really brief. So make sure that when you're talking to them, you are talking in a way that doesn't look like it's going to be a whole lot of work to read it. You might be reaching out to them first on Twitter or on Facebook, or something very, very brief, depending on where you see that they have those type of conversations, or you may send a cold email. This is, again, if you don't have anybody do it for you, or if you don't have any relationships or mutual friends who could make an introduction for you. Second, you want to start with an honest compliment. So be sure here that you're not talking about something that kind of sounds good because you think that they would like to hear it, and you're just giving a compliment for compliment's sake. Make sure that you actually listen to that show, or read that blog, read that article, and pull out something specific. And the way I like to phrase it when I talk to somebody that I never met before is that, thank you so much for writing that article about such and such topic, and I will name what that is. It really resonated with me because, and I will tell them, I give them a reason of why it actually helped me, and I will tell them the impact of that had in my life or in my business. So definitely make sure that you have at least one line there that is a true compliment. If you don't have any, maybe you spend a little bit more time researching them, because if there is absolutely no way of having some kind of a thing that can establish rapport immediately, it's a much harder sell unless you have a completely unique story or unique methodology. So definitely put some effort into this one. It doesn't have to be long, just honest and unique. And then next thing is make it about them. So you want to explain to them why having you on or writing about you or having you write an article there would be a benefit to their audience. So they don't want to hear about you as the expert because you're such a great deal. They want to hear about how it will actually help them have more goodwill with their audience because they're bringing great stories and they're bringing great education or entertainment to that outlet. So what you want to do is offer a few possible topics, especially for online media, but even for offline media, for traditional media. You want to think in headlines, and you guys all know this because you know copywriting. Think about the how to lose 20 pounds in the next 2 weeks, or whatever it is that is very, very action-oriented and that that would be of benefit to their audience and of interest to their audience. But at the same time, also make sure that you have a new spin on it, something that is really unique or that is surprising, or maybe an awkward statistic, something that would actually help you help them pitch that to their editor if it's a traditional media outlet, or something that will make it like, oh my goodness, I have to have this person on because we really want to know about this topic. My audience would love this. Okay? And then for broadcast media, make sure that you focus on one topic and add a strong hook. So I think it was Charlie's question, and we'll look at definitely at the Facebook thread, but he was asking earlier, how do you make sure that, what is the best way to pitch yourself to traditional media? Have a strong hook. So it could be a local or a celebrity or a timely hook. So for example, local it may be that it's your local newspaper that you're looking to reach, and you're reaching out to them, say 2 weeks before, because you know that there is this festivities coming up or a local kind of a celebration or some kind of a holiday that is only happening in that town. And then wouldn't it be fun that for the upcoming such and such holiday, in honor of that holiday, it would be really fun to talk about such and such topic, or I think you might be interested in talking about this kind of topic. If it's a celebrity hook, it's simply you just Google the news and say that, put in your topic and then celebrity news, literally celebrity news, and see what is going on. And like, for example, for one of my clients, we were pitching him for Success Magazine, and he wanted to talk about China and his experience having lived in China. So I literally Googled celebrity news China, and there is Taylor Swift, who is launching her clothing line in China. So we use that as the introduction that, now with all the buzz around Taylor Swift launching her clothing line in China, I thought your audience might be interested in what people can really expect when they're doing business in China. So whatever way you can find to tie it into either local or celebrity or timely, and timely means simply an upcoming holiday or a time of the year or a seasonal thing that is very unique, and why that gives the answer to that person of why now, why should they cover you now. And this is super, super important when you're talking about broadcast media and traditional media in general. Also keep in mind the lead time. So for example, if you're talking about a print magazine, usually about 4 to 6 months is the lead time that you want to start pitching now, so that you'll be in it 4 to 6 months later. So for example, if you have a physical product and you want to have it covered in the gift guides in November, you want to start pitching in June, July, so the time is now. If it's something like a TV appearance, if it's completely super timely, like commenting on a news story, it may be as quick as the next day or the same day in some cases. But usually if it's just a regular for an upcoming holiday or something that is a little bit more not as urgent, then you might pitch about 2 weeks ahead of time. For newspapers, about 4 weeks 2 to 4 weeks is usually good. Now, for online media outlets, like for example for podcasts, it really depends on the size of the outlet and what your relationship is also with that host. For bigger shows, like for example for Entrepreneur on Fire that we talked about a minute ago, that gets over 1 million downloads a month, literally they have about 3 months of they're being backlogged. So that means that when you pitch yourself, and between the time that the pitch is accepted until the actual interview is recorded, there's a 3 months wait time, and then another month to air it. So you want to keep that in mind if you're looking to do this, for example, to have a lot of media buzz around your upcoming launch, or you're releasing a book or something. Count back at least 3 months, 2 to 3 months for online media as well. Now, what shows to target and how to get on them? Well, definitely you want to research the available options based on your expertise and see what might be a good fit. You don't have to listen to every single episode of every show that looks good, but just make sure that at the very least you read the description on iTunes and just listen to it a little bit to have a sense for that, what that person is like. And then if you're starting with the smaller shows, they might have you on within 2 to 3 weeks. They might record you next week, and then 2 weeks later the episode will come out. And that's a great way to get some practice, especially if you haven't done any online or any media interviews before, and then you're working your way up to the bigger shows as well. And start with your warm relationships. We talked about that a little bit already. Or ask for introductions to show hosts from mutual friends. And this is something that we did as well with my friend Madeline when we first launched our show, Born to Influence. This was the reverse of it, actually. Is we were looking to get really big name guests like Gary Vaynerchuk, like Perry Marshall, like John Benson, people like that. And we got them before we ever launched the show. So we didn't have anything to show for it, not a website, not an iTunes page, nothing. And the way we did it is we created literally a dream list, just a spreadsheet. You can use Trello or Google Docs or whatever you want, and map out who are the people that you want to have on, and who are your mutual friends. And you guys already heard that expression, 6 degrees of separation. So this is basically comes down to that. And not everybody is 6. It may be 2 mutual friends, or 3, or 27. So you just want to have an idea of where to start. And then in the meantime, start doing your smaller media outlets as much as possible. Start doing those interviews, and then you have something to show for it when it comes time to ask for those introductions. And if you need to pull in favors, do that. Whatever you can do also to serve the people that are in between you and your dream guest or your dream host. Make sure that you're actually helping and contributing to their lives, not because you're necessarily expecting tats for tats or anything like that, but it will come back to you. So you just want to be strategic with your networking. And then we talked about this a little bit, to read your show descriptions on iTunes and listen to them, and make sure that you befriend the host. You can, all you can do at this point is leave a review. If you listen to the show, it's very easy to do on iTunes. Connect with them on social media, send them an email, just do something friendly, because most of the time online media outlets have a very, very accessible staff. So most of the time the person who is producing the show, they're the ones who are also the host and the person who is requesting the guest. With some of the bigger shows like Mixergy, for example, which we just got a client on again today, it's Andrew Warner's show. They have a different process. You have to really find people on their team. They will do a pre-interview and then finally the final interview with the person. So there is a little bit of a variance between how strict and formal it is on the online side. If you're going after offline media, like for example freelance journalists, this strategy also works. Just find the equivalent for it, like read their articles, comment for them on Huffington Post, connect with them on Twitter, whatever you can do to start a friendly relationship, and then you will send them an email to pitch yourself. There is also another couple of resources that you can use. One is HARO, which is short for Help a Reporter Out. Help a Reporter Out. It's a free email list that you can sign up for, and they will send you, depending on what you choose, how frequently you want to receive, several times a day, once a week, whatever you want, legitimate online media outlets as well as offline media outlets in some cases when they're looking for a particular type of expertise. Now, it's very easy to get lost in this list, so you don't want to spend your day looking for opportunities, and just know that especially if it's a bigger outlet, most of the time in 24 hours that spot is filled. So there is no point in going back through the backlog of HARO. Just if you see something, maybe you use your search in your email, your search function, and then put in HARO and then the word that is most descriptive of your expertise, like finance or lead generation or whatever, and see if any opportunities came up that way. And then another one is Radio Guest List, which is just radioguestlist.com. You can go there and see the same way what kind of guests those radio outlets are looking for. This is for online radio for the most part. And then ask for referrals from the show hosts who interviewed you. So if you're already on a show and they interviewed you, they loved the whole thing, then just ask, hey, by the way, do you know of any other shows that I might be a good for? Could you make an introduction for me? And because you just had that one, they're most of the time really, really grateful that you took the time to do an interview with them. They'll be happy to do an introduction for you. And then you can have your assistant set it up, or if you're using a publicist, just tell them that, hey, by the way, this person said that I should be on such and such show. Let's make that happen, and they will help you with that. Otherwise, they might do a personal introduction for you if you're doing it completely yourself, and then you can coordinate directly with that other show host or with that other journalist. Now, I want to see where we are at in terms of participants in this Hangout before we jump over to the exercise. So let's see. Oh, yeah, we have Jordan. And now who is this? Is it Ben? I can see you quite right. Can you unmute yourself and tell me who that is? Oh, that's Kim. Hey.
This one is George.
Hear you.
Okay.
Cool. Do you guys have any questions so far? Any questions so far?
Not so far. It's gone really good.
Okay, cool. George, I know that you did have a question before, or sorry, Greg, before we got started, and you said that you had to go in 45 minutes. Just want to make sure that we cover it. What was the question?
Wasn't a question as so much. It was really more just listening in and learning more about this, because I think we've got a few messages that we could push out into the media. And so yeah, just open to how we would go about that. So I'm all ears at this stage.
Okay, cool. So I think what we'll do then is, because we only have right now 3 people on, I wanted to do that exercise, but well, let's do it. Let's do that. I'm gonna ask you some questions. Oh, there's Charlie. Hi, Charlie. How are you? Let's do this. I'm going to ask you 12 questions, and just mark down for yourself, and also if you're observing, just mark down a yes or no answer. So first one, have you been interviewed before on podcast or in a traditional broadcast media to share your knowledge or expertise or advice? Have you been interviewed before? Okay. Second question is, do you consider yourself an expert, a coach, a consultant, an author, a speaker, an online marketer, a copywriter, somebody that can have actionable advice that you can offer to an audience they can immediately take away from it and get results? So yes or no, are you an expert? Number 3, have you written a book? Have you written a book? Number 4, do you have a free giveaway, something like an ebook, a cheat sheet, strategy sessions, a simple product, something that you could give away to the media outlet? Do you have a free giveaway? Number 5, do you have an effective sales funnel? And I'm still really serious about this one, so don't just say that, well, yeah, I have an opt-in page, that's great, but if you want to turn it into leads and sales, you'll want to make sure that you know your numbers and you know exactly how those leads will turn into money so that you can make the most of your publicity. So do you have an effective sales funnel? Number 6, do you have an email list with at least 1,000 subscribers or buyers? An email list with at least 1,000 subscribers or buyers. Number 7, is your gross revenue over at least $1 million a year? Are you at least over $1 million a year? Number 8, do you currently run any digital ads like Facebook ads, Google ads, etc.? Do you have anything that you're using online to use PPC ads? Number 9, do you have a strong following on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or email subscribers, anything that is online following? Do you have anything where people are wanting to hear from you? Number 10, are you looking to launch a book or a product or service in the next 2 to 4 months? Yes or no? Are you launching something new in the next 2 to 4 months? Number 11, have you done any webinars or live speaking gigs or something to educate your audience to sell your product or service? Have you done anything that is considered educational marketing? And number 12, do you want to have more joint venture partners to help promote your product or service? You want to have more JV partners. So look at your numbers and see how many yeses you gave and how many no's you had. Okay? And I'm going to give you the key now. So if you had between 0 and 4 yeses, and we'll give some solutions here too. If you had between 0 and 4 yeses, when I really took the time to actually do this very slowly and evaluating the options of what your business may look like based on that, most likely you have a lot to offer, but you need to really position yourself as an expert. So media will help you with that, but you have to make sure that you gather your area of expertise so that people actually want to interview you. You need to look like you know what you're talking about. And one easy way to get started with that is to do some content marketing. Put out things like put up a media page on your website, do some recordings that are freely available on YouTube or on your blog if you're writing articles, something where they can see that really you are somebody who knows what they're talking about. Put up testimonials, client success stories, things like that. And then if you had between 5 and 8 yeses, well, you're really, really close. Most probably either you've been interviewed and quoted already, or at least seriously considered to be in the media, and it could be either one, online or offline. So really what it means for you now is just to tighten your funnels and be more strategic about how you're going about your next media coverage. And I wanted to mention that too in regards to podcasts, because most shows are once a week. So what that means for you is that there is basically 52 options during the year. So you have to be one of the top 52 contenders this whole year who are being considered for that show. So you want to put your best foot forward, even if it's something that you're thinking of as a small media outlet. And if you had 9 or more yeses, then most probably your business could really, really benefit from being exposed in the media, and you want to make sure that you're going about it not only in a strategic way but very, very efficiently and effectively. So either hire someone or use your introductions, use your relationships in order to get that kind of quick entry point wherever possible so that you're getting as much coverage as possible and then integrate it with the rest of your marketing. And so some of the things that you can do to make this whole thing work for you in combination where you're playing with marketing and publicity together is to repurpose your content. So for example, if you're on a YouTube show, you want to take the video and then rip the audio from it so that you have a downloadable MP3. Then you can have the transcript and turn it into an article, cut up that article into social media posts, things like that, so that you have a variety of ways of how you can actually use that as content in your marketing. So one of the biggest misconceptions about publicity is that, well, it will give me all this traffic and all the leads will come in and I'm going to be rich. And that doesn't work that way. Even if you were to be interviewed on Oprah, for example, right, it gets millions of views, but it doesn't necessarily immediately translate into leads and sales. So what you want to do is then take that appearance, whether it's an interview or an article, whatever you did, and use it in the rest of your funnel. So you're thinking of it as an asset, as a content marketing piece that somebody else had professionally produced for you. All you had to do is show up for the interview. And now you take control of the traffic. So you can use that interview in and of itself as a lead magnet, or you can share it through tools like Sniply, for example, which is snip.ly, Sniply, which lets you share other people's web pages in a way that there is a pop-up following them that is actually with your message. So for example, just now, today, I shared something on my Facebook profile, the personal profile, where I was interviewed on another show, on Brad Costanzo's show, but I shared the link through Sniply. Now, everybody who is following Brad and his show, they see the branding of his, they understand it because he has a good, loyal following. So obviously, I would rather share his page than some hidden MP3 on my website. But instead of sharing directly the link, I shared it through Sniply, and so that way I was able to put in a custom message. So when somebody sees it on their Facebook newsfeed through, that I'm sharing this link, they click through, but at the same time, my little picture and message goes with them. And so I can say that, hey, by the way, would you like to be on other shows such as just like this? I can help, and then they can click through to my services page. And you can do whatever you want, whatever kind of message you want, custom graphics, anything you want, by using tools like, for example, Sniply. Now, if you're using something like direct mail or email marketing, then obviously there is a whole slew of other ways of how you can use it. You can email it to your list, share it on social, get the transcripts and email it out, or a thumb drive or a CD or DVD that you're mailing out to your people, the best clients that you have, maybe as a gift as a shock and awe package, or if you have a live event coming up, then it's a really nice way to get in touch via direct mail. And instead of just sending the invite, you can also send them a gift with some kind of content marketing that is featuring you as an expert in one of these interviews. And another thing that you can do is just, for example, if you're doing webinars to educate your market, there's a time lag between when somebody signs up for the webinar and when the webinar actually happens. So in between that, in the warm-up sequence, you can email them your interviews, you can send them the articles that you've written, and also in the follow-up sequence. So after the webinar has happened, and while you're sending the replay or the encore, you want to warm that relationship up so that it's so much easier for them to say yes. And in this way, you can do it because you're not touting yourself that, hey, listen to me, I'm the expert. Somebody else is saying that because you're being interviewed on their platform. Okay? Any questions so far? No questions, or everybody is muted. All right, I'm going to go over to the Facebook page then and see here, because I know that there were some questions from there. Make sure that we cover everything. Okay. So Charlie was asking how PR works. I think we answered that and covered it pretty good. What do you do for a typical client? Charlie, what I do for them is I help them get on online media outlets. So that means getting on podcast interviews, getting connected with influencers, really high-level influencers. Like, for example, for my client Ryan Levesque, who I mentioned a couple of times here, I connected him with James Altucher. With other clients, it's people like Neil Patel or you know, like really big-name people, or just directly with people who can help you with promoting your product or service, particularly if it's in the internet marketing space. It's where I have a lot of connections, and so it's a very easy way to make those connections for where you're not being seen as somebody who's cold emailing someone and saying that, well, hey, can you promote my product? But instead, you have this friend of a friend kind of relationship because it was through a personal introduction, whether it's a Skype call or an email or a conference call, and then that way you have that relationship forever. But as far as the publicity work, I help them with not only with getting on shows and picking out which are the right shows for them, because there's two things that you have to consider. One is that that person or that outlet has the right target audience for you, and secondly, what is the personality of the interviewer? So let's just say if you were to go on Entrepreneur on Fire, literally that show has the exact same questions for every single guest, and they're very, very much on time, very much on point. It's 35 minutes including commercials, so you have to be ready with your stories. So what I do is I help my clients prepare for those kind of interviews and let them know if there is something like that so that they're aware and they're prepared. And because even if it's the same questions for every single guest, you want to make sure that you get your intentional message points across and you know exactly what you need to say so that the person listening to this is actually wanting to inquire more and want to get on your list and want to be involved with you. So I sit down with my clients ahead of time before we start the whole strategy. I interview them on my show, coach them through it, so that those interviews are actually useful to them as content in their marketing, because it will support their overall message in their marketing. And so this is one of the things where really it's very helpful for them that I come in and say, hey, by the way, it could be a 10-minute phone call that week, or it could be just a quick email that I sent to them that, by the way, this person is a little bit tougher, or this person likes to go on tangents. Make sure that you stay on these 3 topics that we talked about. So I help them, coach them through that to make sure that not only are we on the right track as far as what outlets, but also to help you with the jiving with the interviewer. And then how do you measure results? Well, we talked about analytics and link tracking. So what you want to do is integrate it with the rest of your marketing. You're not going to know that, hey, I was on CNN or whatever show and now I got 10 million hits to my website. That's first of all not going to happen in those numbers. But even if it did, that doesn't necessarily help you with tracking it. So while it's not possible to be as cut and dry as with regular direct response marketing, you can measure a lot of things because you can use it as content and then build it into the rest of your funnel. But there is not an intangible, but more like a soft element to it, like an impression when somebody may say to you that I actually heard about you first time in an interview, I looked you up on every other show, and that's why by the time I came to your website, I was so ready to buy. That happens, and it happens a lot. Like, for example, one of my clients, Ryan Levesque, he doubled his mastermind. We started at 540 members, and they're all paying $100 a month. And now it's over 1,000 members. And it's not only because of the podcast, and it's not only because of the publicity, but it helped a lot because he put it together with a funnel that was already pre-existing and really worked very, very well. So when we were promoting his book, Ask, that just came out a couple of months ago, he made it a point to give away 50 copies on every single show that he did. And he actually told me that, not only me, but everybody, that all the traditional media appearances, like being on TV, on terrestrial radio, and being on big newspapers and in big magazines, that did nothing for him in comparison to the effects that he had business-wise and to his bottom line from being interviewed on podcasts. Because people who get to listen to you for a while and you get to develop that relationship, you get to give them something that they can take away and apply immediately and get results, they become a much more passionate follower and ultimately a much more passionate buyer. So when you have a back end in place, that's a much better way to go than going after the big brand names. And then Charlie here also said that I did an interview with Ben Simkin, and it may not result in 1 million downloads or clicks, but it will elevate my position. Yeah, that's exactly right. So first of all, it will help you just by being in the company of people who are influencers and who know what they're doing, but also, again, you want to take those best interviews and use it in the rest of your marketing, and then that way you're giving and you're in control of the traffic, and you already know how to do that. So the role of PR is not to generate traffic, it's to give you content and help you with your credibility, okay? Now, Danielle is asking, do you have any templates you use that work for PR with both print and online media outlets? I'm not sure what you mean exactly by templates, but I'm guessing it's about the pitch, how to pitch yourself. So we went through that. It was in the first 10 minutes or so of this presentation. So if you're observing or looking at the recording, just make sure to rewind that. And basically what it is be brief and give a compliment, an honest compliment, and then suggest a couple of topics with bullet points and address those things, the local, the celebrity, the timely hook, if it's traditional media, and think in terms of headlines when you're suggesting those topics, and then just sign off. Yeah? And then Daniel's also asking what type of list to gain exposure from and what are the easiest, especially when starting out. So again, this is something we talked about a little bit already. Traditional media is a lot more competitive because everybody wants to get on that, and think about it, that some really big companies with a lot of resources are going after that, and so it's harder to get on those, but it's not impossible. If you have the right relationships, you have the right amount of lead time, and you can explain what your fresh take is, what your unique angle is, and why now. Why now? Remember that. Then there is a chance that you can get on, but it's a lot more difficult than online media outlets. So if we are talking about, for example, podcast interviews, it's one of the easiest, lowest hanging fruit, especially when you're first starting out with your online media. Now, I will say, though, that you still have to have a successful track record, and you have to be able to demonstrate your expertise. So just because it's online, it doesn't mean that they will talk to anybody unless it's, like hanging out with your friends kind of a show, which there aren't many. You want to make sure that it's useful. So you want to demonstrate your own credibility and your own expertise through what you're sharing on your online outlets, whether it's your website or your social media, and then that way when you reach out, then they can really take you seriously. Okay, Daniel Braxter is asking, what are the types of stories and ideas that major media outlets love to feature? Well, it's a very broad question, so I only can give you a broad answer. But basically what you want to do is look at, for example, if it's a magazine, look at the columns that are coming up month after month after month, and just look at a few back issues and see what type of stories they're typically interested in. So, for example, if it's a lifestyle magazine, you don't want to sell you, if you're an entrepreneur, let's just say you're an entrepreneur and you're selling some kind of a cosmetic thing, right? Like creams or like in Carissa's case, she has the eyelashes, or hair extensions. What you want to show there is not how you became this salon owner and how you built your business, because it's a lifestyle magazine. You will see from looking at those outlets and the type of interviews that they featured what the emphasis is on for that particular editor or for that particular journalist, and then make sure that your pitch fits into that. So you don't want to stretch it and make it something that it's not, because they get literally hundreds of emails a day, and they're just going to delete it, and then over time, if you keep pitching the wrong thing and really something that is completely irrelevant, they will just simply not open it at all from you. So you want to make sure it's something that already fits in with whatever thing that they're already covering. And if it's a large media outlet, then look at the bigger picture of how can you be part of a larger conversation. Like, for example, what we talked about with Taylor Swift and her launching her clothing line in China. So that's a good hook just to start to say that, by the way, based on the buzz around that, how about covering this story? Or I think your audience might be interested in this story. With online media outlets, because they're much more smaller, much more entrepreneurial, usually it's a one-person show, it's easier to feature the story about you as the person, as the expert, rather than necessarily talking about a big conversation that is going on in the news. And also because most of the podcasts are not topical, they're evergreen. So that's another thing too. I don't know if we talked about that before, but people who listen to podcasts are typically the most affluent part of society, so they have a six-figure income. Obviously they have smartphones, and so they're technologically savvy, and they're much more likely to listen to a product or service recommendation when it comes through the podcast host than if they just heard a commercial. And this is something that I've seen not only from Edison Research, that they did a study on it, but really from the experience of as I'm working with my clients, is that it just works really well because it's a very intimate medium. So people are listening to it in their ears all the time while they're at the gym, while they're doing dishes, while they're walking the dog. And so they develop that trust and rapport with that podcast host. So if you can come on as somebody who is being respected by that host, it really immediately elevates your credibility as well. So this is all the questions I see here on the Facebook thread. I'm going to refresh it just to make sure. And in the meantime, if you guys, anybody in the Hangout, if you have a question, please unmute yourself, and then we'll discuss. Okay. I think that's all from the Facebook. All right. Who has a question online right now?
Okay, I have a question, Esther.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You kind of already covered this, I think, but I just wanted to make sure that I understand it right. If I want to interview somebody for my website, and basically like if I'm marketing to realtors, and so I want to interview somebody in the realtor space, but I don't have a podcast or anything like that. It's just going to be posted up kind of like as a blog post, and then on Facebook, like a remarketing type thing. Would I just follow is for contacting just like you mentioned, like send them a note, tell them something that you like about what they do, and just tell them that you'd like to interview them for their blog, and who the target audience is for, and is it basically the exact same process?
Yeah, it is the same. The only thing is if you don't have an outlet that you can already show that I have X amount of listeners or viewers, it's okay. But just make sure that you can still show them how it will benefit them as well. Because if you can at least put it in terms of a nice size audience, you want to make sure that at least they can see how it will somehow help them. Maybe you're helping to promote their book or their coaching program, or what's in it for them, basically. So for example, when I connected with Gary Vaynerchuk a couple of years ago, he had that book coming out, Jab, 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 Right Hook. And I knew that ahead of time because obviously there was a lot of buzz around it, and I saw it on Amazon with the pre-orders. So we connected with him about 3 months before we got the interview, and we didn't have a show back then. There was nothing online. So I just told him that I would like to help you promote your book. And these are a few people that already agreed to be interviewed, and I actually gave him a number based on those experts that already agreed to be interviewed and said that they would share it on their social media or to share it with their list. So you can add up those numbers and then also your budget for advertising and say that initially we are looking to get the word out to this number of people. So the way you can use that information is like how you're planning to advertise it. Maybe you'll have a reach of, I don't know, just as an example, 10,000 or 5 million or whatever it is, you know, people that will actually see that ad once you start running ads to it after it goes up on your website. Mention that hey, I'm planning to advertise it. That's what I do for a living, lead generation online, and so I know how to get it in front of the right people. So we're looking to get it out to X amount of people, and then also make sure that you're talking to them about how it will benefit them beyond just the exposure.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think that helps. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think that was my main question, because I had tried getting in contact to do that with somebody, and they were talking to me initially, and then they just dropped off, and it's probably because I didn't have a benefit to them.
Yeah, that's always the thing. It doesn't matter what kind of outlet you're talking about. It's just you want to make sure that what's in it for them, either directly personally or what's in it for their audience, if it's something like a media outlet, because that will obviously help them as well. But like I have a client, or I had a client, Rob Corey, who is the author of Feed a Starving Crowd. He didn't have a podcast either, and yet I was able to get him people like Neil Patel and was Joel Kahn, the Twitter expert, people who have really big followings, and it helped him because when he was promoting it, then because of those names, more and more people wanted to join his list. And so what we did, he had an online course that he was launching, and so he interviewed people privately for his Facebook group. It wasn't a podcast, but he just did an interview for that community only. And so we told the expert, when I introduced them, I told them, it's not a podcast, it's not a media outlet per se, it's a private Facebook community with 3,000 people, and what we would like to also do is then take this interview as the audio, the recording, and then put it as a bonus audio to the program that he is launching. So then that way, he knows that he will be in front of people who are actually paying customers. Make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, so just see what kind of creative ways you can come about that is legitimate and that will help you, but then it will also tie in with their interest, and then that way it's so much easier for them to say yes. And also, if somebody says no, don't worry about it. Just go again and find another person. And there are so many people who love to do interviews. It's not that hard to get them.
That's great. So would it be common to just say, once you get to talking about the interview, that you want to do it on Skype? You want to just do a Skype recording, and you'll just be video recording it and posting it up?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want to do. If it's video only, or I mean, if it's video and audio both, then you might use something like Google Hangouts. That's what I use for my show because it's a nicer look. With Skype, you can do Skype, and a lot of people do use Skype for video interviews, but the thing is that the audio quality suffers, for one, and the other thing is that it comes like a side-by-side picture, the two people at the same time, and most of the time one person is doing the talking for like 2 minutes, and the other person is like that on the camera, just looking straight, and I mean, it doesn't look that good. Yeah. So if you want to repurpose it later into video ads or anything like that, it's nicer to have the 16:9 proportions like a movie screen, which is basically what a YouTube video is. And if you're using Google Hangouts, then you get that format immediately, and it records for you both audio and video. Now, if you're going only after audio, then you can use Skype and then use an audio recorder like Pamela to record just the audio part. And then also with the video, you have something like... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that's helpful, the Google Hangouts thing.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that if you can start with video, and then you can rip the audio out of it. There's a lot of software, free software, where you literally can just rip the audio out of it so that you can have both the video and the audio version.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
That's perfect. This will be my last question.
No, please go. Yeah.
What do you think? So, what do you think is the most effective? So, once you let's say that I recorded an interview with somebody. What do you think is the most effective way to use that interview? Would it be to run remarketing ads, like via Facebook ads, or is there some other method that you think is the most effective way to get your value out of it?
Yeah, so there is no one answer to this. It really depends on how it plays together with your funnel. And so you just have to see where could you put in more content that will help that person make the buying decision. So let's just say if you're launching a product or some kind of a service, and you want to make sure that people are actually buying right away, not just general lead generation, then you want to see where can I add more content, where am I making a point in an interview that will really trigger that little they'll have their ears perk up because they heard something that you said, specifically an example in this interview that will help them, or you told a story or a case study. Maybe there was something that would really help that person flip the switch and go like, oh, I have to be on in this, or I have to know more about this. So, like for example, how we gave the idea, the strategy around webinars. Like between the registration and when the webinar happens, you can send them content, and it doesn't have to be necessarily only about a webinar. You can give extra gifts and extra bonuses and say that, oh, here's a transcript from this interview that I did, or listen to this audio. Or you can use the actual interview as a lead magnet. In some cases, it's like where you say the free video reveals and you put it behind a landing page, or you can give it away as free content in your retargeting, remarketing, or to cold traffic. It just depends on what works already with your funnel and where could you use more content that will help you with your credibility and with the stories that you're giving. Just think about it from the perspective of your listener, from the perspective of the person that wants to buy from you. What do they need to know? What do they need to believe in order to want to buy? And then make sure that you're addressing those points in all your interviews, and then you can send them that type of content.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. That's very helpful. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, so let's see. Daniel, you have any questions?
Hi, so how you going?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. No, I think you answered most of them from the Facebook group, and I'll watch the recording because I missed the first part. You said that you'd covered a lot of those early on, so I'll review that, and hopefully it'll all be good. But no, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that.
Okay, you're welcome. And then we have Kim on. Kim, do you have any questions? Kim, do you have any questions there? Oh, I think you're muted still. There you are.
No question. It's been awesome so far. Thanks a lot, Esther.
All right, you're welcome. I'm just going to go back then to the Facebook group just to see one more time if there is anything that we missed. And otherwise, I think we'll be complete for today. So let me just see really quickly. Okay, no more questions. Sorry?
I think your cat wants its own show.
Where is? Oh, she's falling asleep behind me. She's like, whatever.
She wants to steal the limelight.
Yeah, she likes to participate.
Very cool. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Oh, and for those of you who were watching and you were not here live, if you want to go through the exercise that we went through and really see all those answers much more in detail on what you can do to have PR and marketing play together in your case and what exactly you can do to repurpose it and how to track things, go to my website, and then there's this assessment. If you just go to borntoinfluence.com/assessment, or you'll see in the navigation menu assessment. It's a fun quiz. 12 questions, yes or no questions, but then when you go through them based on your answers, you'll receive very, very specific advice on what will actually help you with your business and making the most of your marketing as well, most of your PR and getting the most results from it when you put it together with your marketing. All right, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.